She parked her shiny SUV right across the dirt road and folded her arms like she owned the whole valley. "You're not allowed to pass here anymore," she shouted, holding a stack of HOA papers that didn't even have my name on them. I stared at her, mud on my boots and sweat still on my face from fixing the fence, wondering how in the world she thought she could control a road I built with my own hands. My farm sat just half a mile down that path, but she smirked as if she had the power to cut me off from it. I tried to reason, but she wasn't here for reason. "This road is now under HOA authority," she sneered, wagging the paper. "You'll have to apply for access, and maybe, if you pay the right fees, we'll let you through." Her voice dripped with arrogance like she was doing me a favor. I could hear my goats bleating in the distance, hungry and waiting. But Karen stood like a wall. I clenched my jaw, staying calm, because I knew something she didn't. She thought I was just some farmer she could push around. But she had no idea I'd already started digging something she couldn't block, a path that ran under her precious little blockade. And soon enough, her whole scam would crumble right on top of her. That night, I stood on my porch staring at the blocked road, the headlights of her SUV still glowing like she was guarding a kingdom. She wanted me trapped, cut off from my own land, but the truth was she'd only made me more determined. I waited until the valley went quiet, then slipped down the side of the hill with a lantern in my hand. The tunnel wasn't a new idea. Weeks ago, when rumors spread about the HOA trying to expand their authority, I had started digging a hidden passage with an old backhoe my father left me. At first it was just a precaution, now it was my lifeline. By the time I crawled through the tunnel and came out inside my farm's barn, I couldn't help but laugh. Karen thought she had me trapped on one side, but I was already standing on the other, feeding my goats and checking the water pumps. She had no clue I could bypass her blockade whenever I wanted. The next morning I drove my tractor out from the barn, rolling through the fields, loud and proud. Karen saw me from her SUV, her jaw dropping like she'd seen a ghost. She stomped out onto the road screaming, "How did you get here? You can't be here." But all I did was wave and smile. That's when I noticed something strange. She wasn't just blocking me for her own ego. A clipboard with names and dollar signs lay on her passenger seat. She wasn't only targeting me, she was collecting money from neighbors pretending it was official HOA road fees. And suddenly I knew, this wasn't just about my farm. This was bigger, dirtier, and about to explode. Karen must have realized I'd seen that clipboard, because the very next day things escalated fast. She didn't just park her SUV this time. She brought two men in cheap uniforms, flashing fake badges like they were some kind of authority. One of them banged on my gate, shouting, "By order of the HOA, this property is under inspection." I leaned against the fence, arms crossed, pretending to look worried, while inside I was boiling. Karen stood behind them, smirking, whispering like she was the queen giving orders. "Seize his tractor," she hissed, "and if he resists, call the sheriff." But that was her mistake. Because the sheriff wasn't her friend, she was mine, my cousin to be exact. And she already knew about the tunnel, about the fake notices, and about the threats Karen had been spreading. So when Karen's officers tried to step foot onto my property, real sirens lit up the road. Two county cruisers pulled in fast, dust flying everywhere. The fake cops froze, their badges catching the red and blue lights, and Karen's face drained of color. The real sheriff got out, hand on her belt, and looked Karen dead in the eye. "Interesting. You've been handing out citations with my name on them." The silence that followed was sharp, every neighbor peeking out from their porches. Phones already recording, Karen stammered, "This is a misunderstanding," but I could see it. Her grip on the whole neighborhood was slipping, and everyone was finally watching her get caught in her own game. Karen's smirk vanished completely when the sheriff stepped closer. "You've been impersonating law enforcement," she said firmly, her voice echoing across the dirt road. Karen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her carefully built act was crumbling in front of every neighbor who had gathered. I walked forward slowly, holding my tablet that had recorded every fake notice, every threatening message, and every attempt she made to block my access. "Here," I said, pressing play. The video showed Karen waving her papers, yelling at me and instructing her fake cops like she was the law itself. Gasps spread through the crowd. Karen's two assistants bolted, realizing they weren't part of any legal authority. They were just pawns. The sheriff shook her head and turned to me. "Good work keeping records. You just saved yourself and possibly your neighbors from a lot of trouble." Karen, however, wasn't done. She raised her voice, trying one last time to assert control. "You'll pay for this. I have connections." But even her words sounded hollow now. People weren't afraid anymore. They were watching, recording, whispering. Her empire of fake authority was falling piece by piece. I let her fury wash over me and walked back toward the tunnel entrance, knowing I had the ultimate leverage. If she wanted to keep playing games, I had all the proof needed to protect my land and expose every corrupt scheme she had tried to hide. And the neighbors? They were on my side, finally seeing the truth that Karen had tried so hard to bury. The next morning, Karen tried a different tactic. She sent a letter to every household, claiming I had unauthorized construction on my land and that the HOA could fine me thousands. I opened it with a smirk, because I had already anticipated this. Inside my barn, the tunnel led not only to my fields but also to a hidden room where I kept every document, every video and every HOA scam I had discovered over the years. I spread them across the table, ready to hit back legally. The twist? I had also secretly recorded Karen counting cash from neighbors who had paid their road fees. She wasn't just a bully, she was running a mini racket. By noon, I sent copies to the county office, the local news, and even posted a short video online showing Karen trying to block my tractor while waving fake papers. Within hours, comments flooded in, neighbors were calling, and reporters were knocking at her door. The queen of the HOA had no shield left. Meanwhile, Karen kept trying to storm my property again, but every step she took was being captured on my security cameras. She realized too late that the tunnel wasn't just a secret path, it was also my trap. Every fake cop she had sent, every threat she had made, was now evidence stacked against her, ready to be exposed in court. And as I looked at my farm from the barn window, the goats bleating happily, I felt a rush of satisfaction. She had underestimated me, and underestimated the power of keeping your own records, your own proof, and your own secret path. By late afternoon, the situation had turned into a full-blown spectacle. Neighbors gathered along the dirt road, phones out, recording Karen pacing like a caged lion. Every official threat she made earlier was now public, her arrogance on display for everyone to see. I stepped out of the barn, holding a stack of printed evidence. "This is your chance," I called, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Own up or the county will handle it." Her face twisted with panic, but she wasn't ready to back down yet. Then came the twist nobody expected. One of her own HOA board members, a quiet man who had been watching the chaos unfold, stepped forward. "Karen, we can't let you drag the neighborhood into this," he said firmly. "All of your rules were fake. All of it." Murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. Even some of Karen's loyal followers shifted uncomfortably, realizing they'd been manipulated. I smiled and motioned toward the tunnel entrance. "And just so you know, I have ways of proving everything even when you try to hide it." The crowd gasped, realizing that the secret tunnel wasn't just a passage, it was my ace in the hole, a symbol that Karen couldn't block me from my land or my rights. Karen's face paled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Every neighbor was now witnessing her empire of lies crumble, and the sheriff was already on her way back with additional officers to make sure justice was served. By sunset, the final showdown was inevitable. Karen, desperate and cornered, tried one last stunt. She jumped into her SUV and aimed to block the main road entirely, thinking sheer intimidation could save her. But this time I was ready. From the hill above, I triggered a small drone I'd been using to monitor the property. Its camera broadcasted live footage to everyone gathered, showing Karen recklessly speeding and nearly hitting one of her own board members who had switched sides. Gasps and shouts erupted. The neighbors were now witnessing her recklessness in real time. The sheriff arrived minutes later with backup, blocking her SUV and stepping out with authority. "Karen Thompson, you're under arrest for impersonating law enforcement, harassment, and multiple HOA fraud charges," she announced. Karen's face went crimson, her fake power evaporating in an instant. She tried to argue, but the evidence, my videos, documents, drone footage, and witness statements, left no room for lies. I walked past her, my boots kicking up dust, and waved to the cheering neighbors. My farm was finally safe, my land secure, and Karen's lies exposed for all to see. And as I stepped into the barn, the tunnel glinting faintly under the lantern light, I couldn't help but grin. She thought she could control me, but in the end, truth, preparation, and a little ingenuity had won. With Karen finally in custody, life on the farm slowly returned to normal, but the story wasn't over yet. News crews arrived the next morning, cameras rolling as I explained how a fake HOA tried to bully me, how the tunnel had saved my access, and how every corrupt move Karen made was now public. The video went viral overnight, neighbors sharing it with pride and relief. Even more surprising was the county's reaction. Officials praised the residents for documenting everything, calling it a textbook example of how ordinary citizens could protect their property and rights. Karen's HOA was disbanded within days, her accomplices facing fines and investigations. The road that once seemed blocked forever was now fully open, with new, transparent rules that actually respected landowners. And there was one final twist I hadn't expected. A neighbor, inspired by my secret tunnel, confessed he'd been quietly documenting his own HOA's shady dealings for months. Suddenly, a small network of residents committed to exposing corruption began forming, turning what started as one man versus Karen into a community-wide movement for fairness and justice. As I watched the sunset over my farm, the goats grazing peacefully and the road wide open, I felt a deep sense of triumph. Karen's reign was over, but the lesson stayed clear. No matter how powerful someone pretends to be, truth, planning, and courage always find a way to shine through. Weeks later, life on the farm settled into a peaceful rhythm, but the ripple effects of Karen's downfall were still unfolding. Letters arrived from neighbors thanking me, videos circulated online showing her arrest, and local news outlets ran follow-up stories about HOA reforms sparked by her exposure. My farm, once threatened by her blockade, had become a symbol of standing up to corruption. Then came the final twist, a legal letter from the county. It wasn't a threat, it was a commendation. They recognized the tunnel, the documentation, and my quick thinking as exemplary measures of protecting property rights. I laughed when I read it, thinking back to Karen yelling at the road, never imagining that her obsession with control would lead to public humiliation, arrests, and reforms. And yet, the greatest satisfaction wasn't legal validation or viral fame. It was the quiet moments, walking through my fields, watching my children run past the barn, the goats bleating in the distance, knowing that no one could ever cut me off from what I had built with my own hands. Karen's fake authority had been exposed, her schemes laid bare, and my farm and my family were safe. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I knew one truth above all. Power built on lies always crumbles, but courage, preparation, and clever thinking create a legacy that no HOA or Karen could ever block.